Hello, this is Dale Matthews, and I'm joined by Mike Jones, who will be on a crusade this evening for
Yes.
transgender bathrooms.
Yes. I should have kept my mouth shut so you wouldn't know anything that I just lay it on you. No, interesting.
No, please don't use that phrase.
Yes.
No, thank you
Yes.
anyway. Yes, go
Okay.
ahead, Mike.
Oh, go ahead.
Well,
What
you've
do
got
you?
a video to show, I think.
Oh, actually, no. This comes under depending on what your political stripe is. This to me is insanity, and I think it's somewhere you have to draw the line for this sort of thing. But here is a little piece by Channel 12. It got posted on Facebook. Somebody did it with a cell phone camera, and I went and got the actual video. Very interesting stuff. This is the movement of the culture.
Local school district is looking at how to make its schools more inclusive to people who do not necessarily identify as male or female. Newswatch 12's Casey Kirshner is live to tell us more about why they are looking into these changes.
In most places, bathrooms are typically marked with one of these, women's and men's. But schools are now looking into how students fit into the district if they don't necessarily fit into either one of these.
It's an issue that is challenging districts all across the country as we come to grapple with the balance between an individual student's civil rights and the right of privacy for all of our students.
The Board of Education for Grants Pass School District 7 is evaluating their non-discrimination policy. As it reads right now, the policy says bathrooms will be segregated by gender at birth. That means only women who were born with female reproductive organs can use the women's bathroom. Same for men. But the district is recognizing that not all people identify as their biological gender.
The challenge that they face is to come up with some language that they feel works for our district.
One of the other problems is the wording of the policy. The phrase segregated by gender at birth does not comply with state and federal regulations, meaning the school could lose funding.
Well, the board's well aware of that. They believe they can forge a path forward that meets the intent of the law.
The revision they're looking at now provides separate facilities for males and females without specifying gender at birth. But that creates concerns for some parents.
I don't want my daughter exposed to something that she shouldn't be exposed to.
The district says it's going to great lengths to make all students feel safe and comfortable.
It would also allow us to continue our current approach, which is to provide separate gender-based facilities and work with individual students to reach an accommodation to the extent that they have individual needs that need addressing. The unisex lavatory option, those kinds of things.
My main concern is that they clearly define male and female, whether it's at the chromosomal level, biological level, to protect all of our children's privacy.
The Grants Pass superintendent says he's not aware of a case in which a student felt discriminated against or marginalized because of the district's current policy. However, he says that he hopes with these revisions that won't ever happen. Live in Medford, Casey Kirshner, Newswatch 12.
Listen, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen now that this starts being a topic. Is somebody's going to come out and say, I'm offended and now I need to have my own special place. Listen, transgender is 0.3% of the population. If you continue to do this to accommodate everybody's little, I've got a niche, please make a special place for me. If that continues, you literally, there is no possible way you could accommodate it. I think up to now, there has not been an issue. I think that listen, I sympathize with people that have a struggle about their gender, but, you can get by. You've been a man or a woman, all the way up until now. You can go to the bathroom as that while you're going to school, and then you can have a special bathroom at home that says transgender on the door or something. I think we're just getting ridiculous here, and I just think that you have to put up a dam somewhere and say, hey, listen, I'm totally fine if a restaurant wants to have 3 bathrooms. Great, fantastic, that's their choice. But now this would add up to be billions of dollars nationwide if it ever got mandated that people would have to conform to this. I think it's crazy.
Well, when I was at university, I went to a dancing place, very popular dancing place, and they had one restroom. Well, okay. And I needed to use the restroom at one point in the evening, and whatever, I mean, it didn't bother me.
Yeah. But wait a minute. Your desire for privacy, in connection with your gender, whatever that is, should have been accommodated there. You should go back and sue those people.
The thing is that if I wanted to use a stall, and most of the women that I know do,
sure,
I could easily get into a stall, and we've all been in a situation, speaking of stall, where you're at some dancing place or a theater or whatever, and there's a line to get into the women's restroom, and I don't crowd that line. And then there's easy for guys to get in and out. And so sometimes women will say, and I think with some justification, hey, I'm going to miss part of the show because there's still a line. And they sometimes say, why can't there be two women's restrooms? Now, you're going to want to argue that with some of our female viewers?
No, I won't. However, they should take that argument to the owner of that establishment, and the owner of that establishment would be wise, perhaps, to accommodate. I mean, if it's such an issue that these people are going to make a decision not to come back to that establishment. See, I go back to the free market for anything. Don't force anybody to do this kind of stuff, especially for this transgender thing, when really, when it comes down to it, if they want to choose to be offended, they can be, or they could choose not to be offended and just go on about their business. Because listen, life is not going to accommodate you. You are going to have to deal with a bump in the road. Somebody is going to offend your sensibilities, and you don't have a right to be insulated from that.
Okay, let's suppose instead of being some restaurant or a movie theater, it's a basketball game at the high school. And you got the Knights versus the Mustangs versus, well, probably not all three teams, versus the Cavemen, and I'm sorry, one other team. And now it's a school district that's putting this up. And there are young ladies, girls, they're waiting to get into the women's restroom, and the guys are, in and out of the other. Should there be two women's restrooms and one guy's restroom?
Okay, but you're talking about a totally different thing now. And I believe that in the hundreds of years here, or at least 100 years of organized school situation, they have already got that built into women's and men's bathrooms at schools. I would tend to think that for the most part, there is more accommodated. There's a lot more stalls in the women's bathroom than there is in the men's.
Oh, yes, absolutely, because they're going to sit down. Of course,
what they do.
They've even got a sofa or some place to lay down. We wondered about that when we were kids. What the heck? How come they get the place to lay down? We want one to lay down, and they didn't even attempt to explain it to us.
But now we're talking also about 50% of the population or more.
That's correct.
And
right.
So that makes sense to. This comes down to, it's an economic decision, and it's one where, but the thing is that pretty soon here, we're going to take a gun and we're going to stick it to somebody's head and say, give me the money to pay for, 50,000 bathrooms for transgender people who are 0.3% of the population. Come on, you have to draw the line somewhere.
Okay, the easy way to solve. The easy
Okay.
way to solve both of these problems is to do what happened at that dancing place, and you've got male, female, and both. There are some places where it's for both, and you're supposed to knock or something, gas stations. I don't know. There are places like that, and so you have male, female.
I disagree with that happening at a high school. I don't think they should have both thing there. I don't listen. You know what? I think between parents and teachers and the faculty there, they have to be able to lay some sort of a behavioral standard on these children until they're out on their own. Then you can do whatever you want to. Listen, I remember wanting so badly to be done with school so that I could do whatever I wanted. But I understand in retrospect the benefit of the limitations on my behavior, because I certainly would have done what I wanted to do, and that would not have been good at the time. So.
Well, I understand the sensitivity of people saying, I don't want a third bathroom for both. I don't want my children. Then tell the children, don't go in the third bathroom, and you can make it available. And I would use that when I was in high school.
Okay, but that was, we're talking about, if you're building a bathroom that is large enough to accommodate, because if you start making it unequal sizes, then somehow you're discriminating against one or the other or whatever. Now we're talking millions of dollars just inside of, the Grants Pass Unified School District, not even talking about the county. I mean,
by the way, it's a strange thing. Why was she live from Medford?
Yeah, well, I don't, because that's probably in Channel 12's, and she wanted to be standing next to some bathrooms that have the signs there, male and female.
This is like live from the studio. You're pointing the camera in the other direction. What's live about that?
Well, and it's happening right now, Dale.
Yeah, well, we're live from our studios. Woo-hoo.
No, but this is an interesting thing here, because this ties into the topic of sort of what we're going to talk about tonight.
Yes.
And that is, what do we do going forward? We have loosely some ideas that Dale and I have discussed them at length. And we have ideas about what we want to see local government look like, but how to make it happen is the thing. Now, how this particular piece ties into that is that, listen, here's the situation. You're about to have government foist upon you the requirement of spending, a crap ton of money. And
that's a nice term in this case.
Yeah, and the ultimate benefit is, probably hardly anybody is going to use this thing, or there's not a legitimate need for it. And so what do you do to combat that desire for them to force you to spend that kind of money? It's this, it's a similar thing. Now, one thing that my son and a lot of his friends are into vaping. You know what vaping is? Vaping is these vapor cigarettes, and they've got these, they can become quite elaborate, where you've huge clouds of this vapor stuff, and they kind of almost have a competition to see who's got the biggest, cloud of vapor or whatever. And so a lot of these people, they're really into this. It's like smoking a hookah, or, they blow smoke rings, they do whatever. And listen, even the marijuana people are starting to use it for, apparently you can consume marijuana that way too, if you so choose and have access to a dispensary that will give you that particular stuff. The point is that it's very, very popular. A lot of people have left smoking cigarettes and have gone to this vapor stuff. So the government is losing a lot of tax money. And I make no judgment as to whether it's good, bad, indifferent. I don't know. So far, the health, determinations on this is inconclusive. Really, they don't have. Some people say it's horrible. Other people say it's no problem. It's a lot better than cigarettes. So they're trying to ban it, and they don't really want to ban it. Of course, what they want to do is tax it, just like they do tobacco. So, in the community of people who do this vaping, they are circulating petitions and getting hundreds of thousands of signatures to combat this. Okay. Now, here's the interesting thing about this. This is a silly little thing, this vaping thing. It's not a big deal.
It's just the same thing as an e-cigarette.
Yeah, it
Electronic
is.
cigarette. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Only this is on a there are certain levels of that. There's the ones that are just putting out a little bit of vapor equal to that certainly of a cigarette, and then you've got these ones that put out huge cloud. I mean, literally, it's crazy how much of this vapor they're putting out, and then it just right, exactly. It's very, very similar to that. So the point being is that this is a silly little thing that these guys are doing to pass time. They're young people. Who knows what the heck they're doing. But they've got the time and the energy to pursue circulating and getting signatures on a petition to protect this thing that they like to do.
Well, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Young people, they're getting involved in something dumb, maybe, but they're getting involved.
But this is the interesting thing about this is that they are being quite effective at this. And this is for this little thing, which has not even close to the effect of many of the positive changes that we would like to see in local government and how that would change how we live here in this valley. And yet they're getting it done because you can get a few people off of their butt, and they're happy to do it because they're protecting something that they love to do. So why can't we generate the same type of enthusiasm for the things the changes that we would like to see happen?
Boy, that's a real good question.
Yeah.
The people who are pressing that. Because the young people are getting organized to do this, what did they do next? And those who are trying to quash this ought to be thinking, what are we doing? We're enabling these young people. Maybe they just won't go back to sleep after this. And maybe we're next on the menu.
Yeah, I don't really think they think that far ahead. They're really think they're just like, listen, do you think our local officials think, hey, wait a minute, we've lost this levy twice?
No, you heard them last night. That they were bragging and patting each other on the back. Man, we put this on the ballot, this sales tax, and aren't we great people? No, we are not. Oh, I'm so glad we were brave. No, you were fools. They're not learned. They haven't learned any lessons.
Right. And that's because they're in pursuit of one thing, and that's more taxation money for their own use inside of government to grow government.
How can I see the value of taxes? Come on. But this was crazy, and we tried to warn them like we did with Cheryl Walker and Keith Eck and Simon Hare on this thing about the ordinances, and it went down by 80%, and so did this. And now, Dan DeYoung, and I like Dan, but he said, well, it was really surprising. It wasn't to us.
Yeah. Well, and it just depends on what your agenda is as to what surprises you. But the point being is that the people that are looking to ban those cigarettes, and listen, good, bad, or indifferent, I'm not making a call on e-cigarettes, okay? Just not doing it. However, they're in pursuit of tax money. They want to tax it in the exact same way as cigarettes are taxed. And because they're losing a lot of money to e-cigarettes, and they're not able to tax it at this time because it's not classified the same way. It's not a tobacco product per se.
Well, how do you feel about the whole concept of a sin tax? There are things, it sounds like it's, having to do with vocabulary, not synonyms, but the idea that there are certain things that the government says is bad for you. Hey, stick out of my life, buddy. And so we're going to tax alcohol and gambling and cigarettes more than anything else. Hey, it's none of your business. This is social engineering. I guess I'm a libertarian then, really, just stay out of it. Don't tax this more than this other thing. What's the matter with you?
Yeah, but you know what? Listen, people didn't really have grounds to stand on when it came to cigarettes because a very real scientific argument could be made that, hey, these are obviously bad for you. And so what we're going to do, and this is the ruse that government has foisted upon us when it comes to cigarettes. They don't care whether you're smoking cigarettes or not. They really don't care about your health. They don't.
No, the U.S. government promotes tobacco smoking to other countries.
Yeah.
They
Right.
do.
Yeah. Yes, because they're
So that's an export that the U.S. government is pushing on other
right.
countries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
So listen, so that all is a big lie. And so really, since they're losing money on that, they want to gain the money back, pursuing the vaping. And they'll even get even more because a lot of people, like my son included, are doing non-nicotine based. So you can have certain levels of nicotine in this stuff where you can have no nicotine at all. My son doesn't do any nicotine. A lot of his friends never did smoke, but they do this and they don't want any nicotine. And so you can't even really classify it as being the same thing. The only thing that makes it the same is that it looks the same. When you take a drag off the thing, you blow smoke out. Looks the same. So, hey, let's jump on that because there's some revenue in it.
like bubblegum cigars. Do you remember those
Oh
bubblegum
yeah,
cigars
oh
and
yeah,
cigarettes?
and candy
And
cigarette. Yeah,
they were training young people to smoke.
yeah. Well, listen, whatever.
Well,
Here
parents
we
should
are.
play some kind of role.
Yes, but here we are down the road. And listen, I grew up with candy cigarettes and bubblegum cigars,
Yeah.
and I don't smoke. And most of the people I know don't smoke. And 30 years ago, that was not the case at all. I mean, I smoked in high school because it was the thing to do. I didn't do it all the time, but I did it whenever I was around my friends. And because it was the thing to do. Now it's not the thing to do. So people don't do it nearly as much.
Right. Well, we had talked
I
earlier.
personally think it's a tax on people at the lower end of the income scale,
Oh, yeah.
quite frankly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight was an action plan.
Mhm.
Now, the only problem with an action plan, interactive graphics again, is it sounds kind of like, oh, someone's going to suggest I take some action. Turn it off. I don't want to have. So going back to what Simon Hare said about the influence of local people on the commissioners, he had suggested they've gotten in trouble finally with the state for disobeying the law. No, we didn't. No, we didn't. Yes, you did. And we caught him again, but this time it stuck. So instead of something sounding like, oh, what are they going to be asking me to do? The next thing they're going to red banners flying, or you got to wear a pink shirt, and I'm not a communist and all that. Yeah, well, I'm not either. I'm not even a Republican. And in this case, I'm going to make it simpler for everybody. Okay, so I understand that action plan sounds a little pushy, and that might be a little bit more than you'd like to do. But taking a page from Simon Hare, let's change this from action plan to, as he said, we're just gnats in the room, to a gnat plan. Okay, we can do that, right?
Yes, I guess so. Yes.
All right, so we're going to have a gnat plan.
We could have colored T-shirts.
Yes,
the gnats.
The gnats, right? And so we can do this. This doesn't sound like it's too hard to do. Can we kind of buzz around and kind of bug them, with watching them? You've asked us to watch them, which we do. And we've been very successful at that. This show is more successful than it ever has been. And election night was huge. We got more viewers than the TV stations did individually at their 11 o'clock news. And so what's next? So one of the things that Mike and I have been talking about is we're doing what you asked us to do. We are following through and we're educating you. And when we said, can you please take the effort when you're watching one of our videos to click on like, because it lets us know that we're communicating with you, and also lets,
Right.
hey, there's 13 people that like this. That's pretty nice. Now, there's
Right.
more than that watch the show, but is it worth it doing anything? Okay, so
well, if you look at the numbers and you look at the likes, it would appear that most of the people that watch the show don't like it.
yeah, that's what it seems like. That's right. But there are people now, Mike. What is before we get into that, let's talk about what the possible advantages are of at least clicking or watching the show. Let's talk about the minors. Mike knows this. We have seen changes, abrupt changes at a weekly business session, for example, when groups of people come in. We're not going to ask you because we've asked you before and you didn't come. Okay, all right. So we've asked a couple of times, and Mike threatened to kick some part of your posterior. That didn't happen. Okay, all right. So we're not going to ask you to do that. But there are some simple things that you can do while you watch the show, and we're going to make it easier for you. But talk to me a little bit, and I can do this too, about when the miners showed up in their same color T-shirts, and the commissioners were paying a lot of attention to them.
Well, to be honest, I wasn't really there much during that time. That was a little slightly before my coming there on a regular basis. I started coming probably not long after the Oath Keepers came in and would not sit down. And that was one of the things that I remember right at the beginning. But there was. Well,
let me just say just a little bit more about that.
Sure.
They stood up whenever one of their members came to the podium. That's all. They simply stood up. And most of them were in the back of the room. Cheryl Walker did not like them standing up. You're blocking the view of people behind you. And I look back, there wasn't anybody behind them. So that was bogus argument. Yes. And there were people in the audience that that's okay, I can see. She didn't want to hear it. She didn't want people well, you cannot stand up. No.
Right. It was making too much of the statement is what the problem was. And they didn't like that. But
they never did it again, which I think it was a huge mistake, but they should do whatever they want to do.
The one thing that I thought was the most effective was the shooting down of the 7 Cheese Pizza. And that was the 7-county IGA that was... You were going to have people from other counties coming in here telling us what to do, and it was crazy. The 7-county IGA was crazy, and a bunch of people showed up and started talking about the specifics of what was going to happen in this, because a lot of people had read it and a lot of people had talked about it, and all of a sudden you had a room full of people and everybody was pretty fired up about it. These people in the beginning of the meeting, before any of the opposition came up and spoke, were speaking glowingly of it. Oh, this is wonderful and blah, blah, blah. And by the end of the meeting, when they saw all the opposition and the people who were steely-eyed glaring back at them, they turn tail and run very fast. And before you know it, Simon is practically given a podium thumping speech about how bad this is. It was an amazing thing to see. And that happens when people become active and have a clear intention, a real push towards a certain direction. Well, another fantastic example is here a couple of months ago when there was the meeting about the mineral withdrawal, and you had representatives from the 2 Oregon senators, and some local environmentalists, and some other people who were notified that there was going to be something here and to show up and demonstrate. And they did. And I'll tell you what, it frightened their opposition so much that they, very few even, it was like a pep rally. And
there were only 3 of us who stood up and said anything, and I was one of them.
Right. And if you had any type of listen, there's a lot of people in the county that think similarly to the way that we do about how government has treated us. And I don't see how you couldn't, bend government to your will if you care to do that. And that's what political organizing is about, and I wouldn't have thought of advocating for that type of behavior, but I can see that it's effective, and we better get on the bandwagon or we're going to get rolled over by the bandwagon.
When David Fraser was fired. Well, I wasn't fired. I quit. Yeah, yeah. When he was fired from the city council staff, and now he's been fired again. And it turns out it's like 4 times he's been fired. He's just got a problem. There, he was still sitting up front with the city councilors in the staff area. And there were 2 people from the audience who stood up and broke the rules, not suggesting you do that. And they started talking about, why is this guy up there? Why is he up there? He got up and went and sat in the audience and never sat up there again. I learned a lesson. I'm not suggesting that you do that. I was kind of mortified. I mean, that's really breaking the rules. But it had an effect, and that's just 2 people. Mike and I are just 2 people. I saw the miners come in. They were all dressed in the same yellow shirts, and they were pressing for things that they wanted. Well, they were getting it, buddy. I mean, the commissioners were falling all over themselves to address them. Then the miners had a falling out among themselves and broke up into like 4 or 5 different groups. And then they weren't wearing the same shirts. They weren't coming to the meetings anymore. They had real political power, and the power structure was listening to them, but they couldn't keep it together. And then they broke into lots of little groups. We have a same thing now. There are lots of people that meet with little groups. I mean, Mike and I meet once a month with a little political group that talks about things. We were there. We were invited over Republican headquarters to watch the speeches last night and the debate. We're not Republicans, but they were nice to invite us. And it was interesting to see what people had to say. And these groups, they get together, and then sometimes they'll make up plans. Well, I've been around long enough to realize that most of the time, almost all the time that they make a plan, not just a NAT plan, but any plan, they're not going to do it. I mean, it's a plan. Well, no, we're not going to take action now because, and we can't tell you about it because it's a secret plan, but we're going to go to Salem. Simon goes to Salem all the time. What are the results? Well, we're going to get in a car, we're going to drive up there, and you're going to do what? Why, we're going to bend them to our will. You know what? I've seen a decade of this, more. And it's very nice. And I'm sure that they're just, Dale Matthews, he certainly doesn't understand what we're doing. Where's your results? Why, we have a plan in action, and we're going to sue them, and we're going to do this. Yeah, well, when's that going to happen? We actually did it. I went into the courtroom. I'm not a lawyer, but I sat there and I held my own for sure, at least as good, if not better than the guy that the Chamber of Commerce picked. I sat there. Mike videotaped it with 2 cameras, and we got the city attorney to admit that they don't need us, and that they could put something, they could do it tomorrow. They could do it anytime they wanted to. This was, I mean, he was kind of bragging, but what a stupid admission. Okay, that this, so we had an effect. Just 2 goofy guys can do this. There were only 3 of us that were involved in that whole deal. We didn't have some group. This is why when Channel 10 or Channel 12 comes, well, where's the leader of your group? We don't have a leader. This is really grassroots. Well, where's the head of the chamber of, okay, go ahead. Go talk to him. We just did it on our own. So now all that we're doing, and we do it for free, is we just bring you the news. That's all that we do. Mike, we could continue doing that. Any objections?
No.
Okay. What more can we do?
Nothing.
We get asked, we get asked all the time, well, what are your solutions? We do get asked that. Well, one, we're not paid to give you solutions. We're not paid to do it.
But we do it all the time. We talk about solutions on this show.
We do.
All the time.
Now, so how can you get involved? Oh, turn it off, Marge. He's going to say how we can get involved. Just relax. It's going to be easy. Here's what we're thinking about doing, and that's why I wanted to bring this to you, and we're bringing it to you together. Maybe what we can do on selected shows once a week, couple times a week, probably not every night, is when we're talking about something and we're showing you a video. Here you've got the mayor saying, well, if half the businesses go out of business, maybe we'll just keep doing it for another year or 2. That's what he said. So maybe what we can do is underneath me it says Wednesday. And maybe instead of Wednesday on certain select days, we could have some buttons there, interactive buttons, and like these, but they're not really interactive. You press them and nothing happens. Just get sore. Interactive buttons. And when you press that button, it says, I'm really upset. Like Mike said last night, about Roy Lindsay. He says, the first time you mentioned this, I was not that upset, but now I'm looking at it, and, well, he said words that I don't usually
That
use.
was Darren Fowler.
Yeah, okay, and he wasn't very happy, and you had the same reaction to Roy Lindsay.
Yes.
To the long story that Roy made up about someone that wasn't going to listen to Roy. Well, what about the children? I don't care. No new taxes. The guy's not thinking, right? And he's painting us all that way. Hey, that's what they're like. Yeah, you lost by 80%. Just chew on that for a while. And so maybe what we could do is have buttons down at the bottom, and when you click on it, you're watching the show anyway, and you're upset. Hey, I don't like that. Okay, so it could be buttons that maybe go from 1 to 5.
We'd have to do that on the website because YouTube's not really going to accommodate that for us. You can have links. You can have buttons that links, but they have to go to videos. You can't really have it be, they don't go to anything else. Plus, you're paying them.
Okay, we could have them go to a video, and we've done this in the past. This is thank you for your vote. That's the video.
Or we could have a sign in the video that that says, go to the notes underneath, and you can put whatever links you want in there.
Sure. I want to make it as easy as possible, and the reason why is this. Look, we know that when we asked you. Not getting on your case, thank you very much. But when we asked you to click on like, that you could all do it if you like it. Okay, we know that there's more than 6 or 7 people who are watching the show and are liking it. We know we get emails, so you can do that.
Dale gets emails. He never tells me about any of the emails that come in when you people write to this address right here. badcounty@cpros.com. He hoards all those emails for himself and never shares them with me.
Well, we're only getting like 3 or 4.
I think we
got to that address.
You want an action plan? Let's get I want to put out a petition and get as many signatures as possible, and then have Dale send those emails to me too.
All right. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I will share them with Mike. Okay. So and we get responses.
You see how easy that was, people?
That's right.
All they had to do was be threatened with a petition drive and compliance.
He didn't even need to wear a special T-shirt.
Right.
Okay. So I want to make it easy for you guys, because the way that you get young people involved in sports is you get them out there and you put a baseball on top of a plastic tube, and then you have them swing at it until they finally hit it. T-ball. Okay, so success, yay! And then they run to first base and then run off into the woods. Okay, so and then you chase after them. I'm not saying that
it's a fantastic explanation.
I do totally understand why, after a couple of generations of having your complaints fall on deaf ears, why would you believe you can get anything done? Well, look at what we're doing. We're on every night. We're coming up on a year. We started January 1. It's halfway through November now. We've been doing it every night. We don't have a bunch of bucks. I mean, I didn't even get my check this month, my Social Security check, and how am I going to pay my rent? I'm going to solve that problem, but we're going to try to solve another problem. Now that you watch these videos and you get upset about them, we know you do. Well, we're going to give you a way to channel some of that energy with something super simple. We're going to make it as simple as we can, even though it's going to be more work for me, some more work for Mike too. We'll put some buttons down at the bottom, and when you click on that, it says, hey, thanks for letting us know what you feel. I really don't like this, okay? Oh, I sort of don't like this, okay? And if you like it, don't click. And no one's going to be capturing anything about you. You're not going to get on an email list for Nigerian scams or something. We're not going to do that to you. And we're going to try to gather some of that information and start turning it into emails to the commissioners, to the city councilors, to the state. So when you see something and we tell you that the state people who looked at this, they saw that it was illegal, they admitted that it was illegal, but they're not going to do anything, this is what they told us, then you can say, you know what, please send an email to that person and say, what's up with you? Why aren't you, you don't have the money to take them to court for a mandamus, which said you're not doing your job that we're paying you for. I mean, how do you even spell that? But you can click. It's a start. It's a start of a NAT plan. And this NAT plan, 2 years ago, Simon said, they're just gnats in the room, and Kjo was laughing right along with them. Kjo, just laughing right along. Ha, ha, ha. They amount to nothing. Well, it's turned into something. So we can do better than this. We've got a year before the election. We can do better than this. We deserve better than this. But we're going to need to be able to get up the energy and raise up a bony finger and click. That we can do. Mike?
Yeah, okay. Yes, I'm on board.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry I don't have a tirade behind that. I thought I sort of laid that down earlier. I think that there's going to have to be a few tweaks there. Now, some of this could be accommodated if a lot of people watched this on Google Plus. And nobody does, hardly any.
You're asking people to change their behavior.
Right. And I know one person that does that watches us on Google Plus, and I believe that there's something that you can basically vote which part of the video you like at any point in there. However, there may well be a way to accommodate this on the website, or a link that is in the description that takes you to a survey page. And we'll try to make that as streamlined as possible. It certainly could be, there's a lot of people, and there's this is probably the reason that you don't have more likes than we do, is that some people, they just go to badcounty.com, and badcounty.com lays it out full screen, and you don't see the likes and dislikes in the description and stuff underneath. You don't see any of that. Watching it through YouTube, and a lot of people there's some people that are better versed in internet ease than other people are. And so they know to go to Dale Matthews' YouTube page, and there's a chronological layout of every video that he's ever done, and all of our shows all the way back to the first one.
Okay,
so if we put it on there, that gives you access to like and watch it all.
If we put it on the screen, right down here where it says Wednesday, if we put it on the screen and we make that interactive, even though it has to link to a video, okay, that's a bit tedious for us, but that makes it easier for you. And then it doesn't matter whether you click on like or don't click on like. What we're trying to do is engage you in this. Let me tell you what the potential results are. We get asked every once in a while, well, could citizens get together, 1,000 signatures and put an advisory question on the ballot? No. Well, the commissioners could easily do that for you, but they're not going to put an advisory question. Might be something, one I would approve, one that I would do if I was a commissioner. One of the first things I do, let's say on the next election, advisory question, would you like to have a break? It's not enforceable by law, but at least you're passing back some information. They could have done this with the city sales tax. They could have put an advisory question on the ballot, but they didn't want to get any advice back from anybody. Would you like to have a 4-year break from proposals of raising your property tax? Now, SOS and Cuffs are not going to listen to that, but they could get some feedback from people if it comes back 80%. Yes, please, please, please. How about putting something on the ballot that says none of the above? Oh, well, government would never allow that.
Well, and you're right that if the commissioners proposed putting that, they would catch so much flack from their people inside. Remember last night we were talking about the people inside that these unpaid elected officials have to deal with. It's the people on the inside telling them what a great thing this would be, and then they convince them how great it would be, and wow, what you really need to do is get us some money so we can do the great things with other people's money. Yay! And then all of a sudden, oh, they're all ginned up, and of course they want to have these people's approval, and so ultimately I believe that if the commissioners tried to do that, especially this current crop of them, they would catch a lot of flack from the inside.
But the thing is that we are you guys. We are you. Okay, so If people inside the courthouse don't like it, too bad. Now, I'm in the courthouse all the time, and I get people in the hallway, county workers, some of them a little higher than that, some of them managers, will come up and very quietly say, "Good work, keep it up." Oh, really? Now, I'm not going to say who they are. Are you kidding me? But yeah, there are people who don't like what's going on. Now, there's plenty of people like J.J. Schofield, the head of HR, who says, Human Resources, who says, "You're lying all the time, Mr. Matthews." Who in the world would say to anybody at any time, "You're lying all the time"? That's crazy. You're lying all the time? That's why I responded, "You're doing a real good job as the HR director. You're lying all the time." This is the kind of, this is the mentality of the people who hate us, and especially me. They hate us. This is why what just happened when we turned in state's evidence, the commissioners got in trouble, and they actually said, both Keith Eck and now Cheryl Walker have said, because you say that we're guilty, and you're going to go off without, what was it that he said? Something about, it matched what I said, that we're irrelevant to the future and you're going to solve your own problems. Now you can't speak. Really? Now, there's 3 problems with that. There's more than that. There's the First Amendment. But if you're going to allow other people to speak, and you're only going to stop people if they scream out bad words, like Keith Heck has done, then you've got to be consistent. I think you should have to be. Another is, they know I'm a candidate to replace one of them, Keith Heck. Oh, really? Now they're not going to let one of the candidates speak at meetings? Really?
Yeah, and some of this, there's the possibility that this is retaliation.
You think?
Because Dale and Sandy are the ones responsible for the complaint that ultimately led to the ethics commission saying that there are problems here. You guys clearly did A, B, and C, and so this is entirely possible that this is retaliation for that. And how do you feel about the commissioners retaliating against citizens who speak up about what they see that's wrong?
Especially if we're catching them breaking the law. This is not the first time we've done that. This is the first time that the OGEC, Oregon Government Ethics Commission, has even looked at it seriously. The commissioners weren't bothered because they've never had to go up there and defend themselves before, because the OGEC would always let them get away with whatever. Now they finally get caught, and they're not happy about it. Well, you asked us to step forward. I stepped forward, and then they say, "Okay, now you can no longer speak." Not you can't yell out expletives, not you cannot, do these stupid things at meetings as they have done, but because you say that you're not going to follow our leadership. So now you can't speak. Really? So what we're trying to say is, look, it's odd because it's me, but it's you too, okay? Because we are of your background, and what I'd like to see is, I'd like to see all of us able to put advisory questions, at least that. What do you think? Actually poll the people, not that fake poll that's in the Courier. We proved that was a fake, okay? But what we'd like to see is get some feedback from people. This is a simple thing to do, and we're starting that process now, so that you realize that when you click on that, we're not going to capture your information and sell it to anybody. We don't sell anything, okay? But what we'd like to do is, we'd like to get you used to giving feedback to things, so then that we can turn some of this into action plans that end up, yes, you could send an email. You could call Keith Heck or Cheryl Walker and say, "This is how I feel about it." You could. That's not happening, okay? So, but while you're watching the show, to try to make it a little, I'm not saying we're holding your hand, we're not doing that, okay? But you need to kind of get into a habit of saying, well, now that I'm kind of upset about this, what can I do? Oh, look, here's a poll down the bottom says, "How upset are you?" Well, I'm really upset. Then click on that one and tell us. And then we will turn it into something, and we'll tell you ahead of time, so you're not volunteering to sign your life away or any stupid things. We'll turn that into something where you go, well, yeah, that's good. Now, imagine where this could end up. Suppose that you had cable TV. I don't either. But, on cable, There are easy things that are not very expensive where you can rate what's happening right now and say, well, I like this, I don't like that. And you could actually have it on the screen where you like what the commissioners are saying or the city council, or you don't like what they're saying, and give them feedback. It's super simple. It's not that expensive. They're never going to allow that. Can you imagine if there was instant feedback about, oh, it's not just the stupid nets in the room, it's everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not going to be financing that anytime soon.
No, but I'll tell you where that money could come from. One of the things that we could do, advisory question, or we could make a decision if a couple of fiscal conservatives, again, not social conservatives, you might like that, but fiscal conservatives say, you know what, first thing that we're going to do is we're going to stop commissioner travel all over the country and the state. You want to participate? You spend a ton of money on a high definition, huge screen on the wall. Use that. Or there's this thing, it's probably around to stay, called a telephone. Or occasionally there are people that come here. Senators come here. You can meet with them. No more commissioner travel. No more. What good has it done us? Well, I was there and I was chair of the chair committee at the Coastal Conference. No, it's only going to affect one person anyway. Well, except next week, there'll be no meetings. You know why there's no meetings next week at all? Because all 3 commissioners are gone at the Association of Oregon Counties meeting. When was the last time you heard something positive, negative, or in between coming out of the Association of Oregon Counties?
Yeah, I don't think any of these confabs end up bringing anything positive. Listen, and if I'm wrong, please send me an email here and tell me that I'm wrong about this and how wonderful all of these meetings are and what great things come to Josephine County as a result of it. I don't believe it. I personally don't.
The commissioners have every chance in the world to talk about what comes out of these. And when they come back, there's very little to say. Well, I met with some people and they're kind of listening to us, and maybe we're all going to do something about the timber receipts. Mm-hmm. How long have we been hearing this?
Yeah.
Ever since I got here, 10 years. Well, but it's an incremental process. Okay, you know what? The incremental process is still going to happen if you participate via telephone. You know who's going to hate this plan? Simon Hare, because he's gone a lot of the time. Well, he's traveling all over the western part of the United States. Why is he doing that? He's looking for his next job. I don't want to pay for him to do that. Okay, so you could easily give back feedback. Now, what's going to happen is the commissioners are going to eventually say, it doesn't matter what kind of feedback we're getting, but imagine what would happen if there's 30, 40 emails. I don't mean just votes. Well, here's what our votes show. Yeah, it's bad county. Don't even bother reading it. But if they turn into emails, individual emails, without your effort, you could pick from a list. Yeah, I like this email. Okay, we'll send that out specifically for you. Oh, how about this one? That's a lot of work for me because I'm the one that's going to do it, writing all those emails, but they'll be individualized to, match your vote. And then we'll see that they get these things. The city council and the county commissioners and the state government. And every week there's like 20 or 30 emails that they're getting, not always from the same people. Now we're talking about showing up at a meeting, not really showing, but virtually showing up wearing T-shirts. Action plan. NAT plan. Super simple for you to do. Eventually, you may actually end up at a meeting. That'd be cool. That happens every once in a while. Even the people who were at that meeting when Keith said, you can't speak anymore because you turned us in, basically. And then when Cheryl says, you don't think that we're your leaders, so you can't talk anymore. There was almost nobody that said anything. There were people in the room that didn't even know it was said. And these are people that are there. So since you watch this show, we value your input. And, I think there's a lot to this. And we're educating you. We're doing what we can. And now we're going to very easily turn this. And we haven't been playing this for a year, but just was talking with Mike about it. Mike, where's the possibility of where this could go? Please talk a little bit about that.
Well, listen, and this it depends on how well we present it and how well people respond to it. Of course, it could certainly listen. we know how few people it takes to turn the commissioners at a meeting if they happen to show up and are forceful and passionate enough about the topic that they're talking about. If there is enough passion generated and people want the change bad enough, I hate to go that route, but if they want it bad enough, then I think it would be quite effective. But there's a number of factors that it's dependent on, and so we'll do the best to present it, and the rest is up to you guys.
When the commissioners, almost done, when the commissioners said that they were going to spend $130,000 with the county going on its own on this water plan, it's a good idea to check out the water. Of course it is. When they said they were going to do that, you know how much feedback they got in emails from people? They said Zippo. Well, if you think that that's dumb, if you think that's kind of outrageous, well, we want to make it easier for you to give them feedback. Just by watching the show, you're watching it anyway. And so you could click on the bottom, gee, I think that's dumb. That's outrageous. Please tell them that I think so. And it's a lot more effective than when they say, well, look at this thing now. This is stupid. This is about me. But, well, we've got no emails at all, no feedback, no phone calls, not even anybody at the weekly business session, just 2 people this last time, nobody the first time, that have said anything about the fact, well, so we get away with it. This is how bullies, this is how the bad guys get away with it. They do something and no one says anything. So what do they do next? They do more of it. And then what do they do next? Then they're doing it to you. So there are things that we can do, but we must find our voice. Now, we don't just cover the news. We started out just covering the news, and people were saying, yeah, but what does that mean? I mean, who are those people sitting at that table? Even the TV station guys are saying, who is that? And I explain, oh, hey, that's helpful to know. That guy used to work for Rural Metro, and now he's making the new rules that affect Rural Metro. That's nice to know, okay? But if you don't know that stuff, then you don't know why it's upsetting. And when we put up the video with no comments from us, you can watch it and you go, well, yeah, it's a nice meeting they're having. But what they're saying matches with this criteria that sometimes you don't know. Well, that's why I go, okay, and sit through these long interminable meetings, and you sit through these long interminable shows. We're going to try to make it easy for you to participate. And then after a while, maybe some of you will say, maybe we can do just a little bit more. We'll let you know if we think that's possible. And thanks for listening. We're going to do what we can to turn it into some kind of action NAT plan. Good night.